residents of Champaign-Urbana area. In the summer after his M1 year, he volunteered at a small-town hospital in Ecuador with Bynester Clinical Experience Mission Program. In Peoria, he's been an active member of the HEARTS, which stands for Health Education and Awareness Resource Teams, a student-run organization that has provided health education sessions for at-risk teenagers at an alternative high school. He's active in the internal medicine interest group, serving as its co-president. His peers elected him to represent them on the Peoria Campus Student Affairs Budget Advisory Committee. He's a peer educator for the second-year medical student, and he's a key organizer of the Peoria's USMLE Step 1 Longitudinal Prep Program. During his M1 year, Gregory was cited for exemplary professionalism, for his positive outlook, and concern for others in his biochemistry small group. Gregory received the McGraw-Hill Award for being at the top of his class in the M2 year in Peoria. In the junior year, he was inducted into the Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society, having placed in the top 4% of the class of approximately 300. And his career is just beginning. He will be pursuing, as you heard, a residency in internal medicine at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Greg Olson.
I really apologize for what I'm about to do, but it needed to be done. Thank you, Dr. Ryder, for the kind introduction. Didn't expect the biochemistry small group to be in there. That's part of education too. A big thank you to my classmates. That's this big group of doctors down here for choosing me to speak at graduation today. Although it should be noted that I was the only one who counted the votes. And initially I didn't tell my family I would be doing this today. I tried to keep it as a surprise, but then I realized the name was in the program. So here's not disappointing enough. So when trying to decide what to talk about today, I decided I'm in no position to really give advice. I've been a doctor for about 15 minutes. The two letters after my name now are the same as these folks, but something tells me they know a few more things. So instead, let's just take a journey down memory lane as a class and try to relive some of the highlights, the lowlights of the last 4 years. And along the way, we'll stop and give thanks to some important people. So it actually started before we even got to med school, where we carried the dreaded label of shame as pre-meds. And of course, a big part of being a pre-med is you got to apply to med school and write an admissions essay. And a popular medical satire blog posted an article a little while back that said, if med school admissions essays were a binding contract, if they were a legally binding contract, you had to do what you said in that essay. So if that was the case, then this year nationwide we'd be graduating 10,000 physicians to serve the underserved, 5,000 global health specialists, and 1 dermatologist. Obviously, this is not the case. We got to kind of try things out and choose as we went along, preclinically, clinically. Especially important for me, I will not be a pediatrician in rural New Hampshire. I was able to find some other things that I enjoyed along the way. So med school, as you know, started actually in Urbana, not Peoria, for those of you not aware. In fact, it actually started a full week early for a group of us doing something called physiology boot camp. An extra week of school for extra money. Yeah, I'm sure none of us would have rethought that decision looking back. But all things to be considered, our year in Urbana was pretty dang good. A few thank yous are in order. They're all connected, all three of these thank yous, so stay with me. Connect the dots. First, let me thank the LCME, that's like the Medical Accreditation Society, for determining that we needed to have in your preclinical years 3 half-days off a week with no class. Just an independent study. So thanks to them. Thanks to the Urbana schedulers for putting 2 of those half-days every Wednesday. Pretty much the entire year. And so thank you to them, but mostly thank you to the good folks at Joe's on Green Street for hosting that brings us to M2. We came here to Peoria, and there's a statistically significant decrease in 90s nights, a statistically significant increase in lectures. Don't ever say those words in a speech, that's challenging. We had our white coat ceremony, and we were actually treated at our white coat ceremony, a very unique one, with a 30-minute song and dance routine. Sorry to the mic guy, that went a little something like this. Steamboat coming! Whatever they was doing, they ran on down the little water river. Now remember, if Steamboat came to P-Town, you know there was no telling what would go down. Steamboat coming! Undoubtedly, one of the most unique white coat ceremonies in the country. I love it. Parents, I'm sure many of you might remember that. Hopefully, his daughter is doing well at Harvard. Yes, you let us know many times in those speeches. So then in M2, we sat down in the lecture hall. We listened to great Dr. Geis, who presented slideshows that were quite honestly works of art. They were really the best slides we had, I think. So they did have an overwhelming number of Calvin and Hobbes comics sprinkled in. We went to Path Lab as Dr. Joseph raised our collective hemoglobin A1Cs with a steady diet of Capri Suns and cupcakes. And perhaps most memorably, we worked our way towards step 1 at the end of M2. Undoubtedly, the biggest pressure-packed mountain of an exam we've ever taken to date in our short careers. There'll be more. There's actually a Winston Churchill quote that perfectly describes studying for step 1, and it goes like this. I always believed in staying in the pub until closing time. Sorry, that was my M4 quote. Oh, here we go. If you're going through hell, keep going. And keep going we did, and we studied day after day until the test was upon us. We all freaked out, some of us very silently, some of us much more publicly. And then we took that test, we grinded away 8 or 9 hours, or however long that is. We finished, we exhaled, and then we realized, crap, there's a step 2? There's 40 questions longer? There's 2 step 2s? But I'd be amiss to mention M2 without speaking of some of the key staff members who helped us get through. In fact, there's one specifically that our class of 2015 would like to recognize here today. So Mr. Steve Fair, he worked, and you can come on up, he worked 20 years as security at UConn. So the class of 2015, Dr. Imran Shishki here, would like to honor you with a plaque to commemorate all your years of hard work and service to our community. Thank you for the dedication to the students and staff, every bit of hard work is true. So that takes us to M3. Lectures are no longer podcasted. Dr. Lars Birgertsen can no longer stroll in at 10:30 and anymore and start asking questions before he even fires up the video games on his laptop. We did surgery where we stood around and retracted for hours at a time. We did internal medicine where we stood around on rounds for hours at a time. And we did OB-GYN where we stood around waiting for babies to come for hours at a time. Of course, you can't forget pediatrics, full of smiles, hugs, rainbows, flowers, mistrusting parents. Family medicine for the people who always choose the potpourri category first when they play Jeopardy. And psychiatry, where we came one by one, got thoroughly psychoanalyzed by Dr. Olavi, and silently diagnosed our classmates with various personality disorders. And then that brings us to M4. The cocky, lazy older sibling of the 4 class. We hit the road to try to convince programs to take us to residency, where work hour restrictions weren't really that much of an issue, and the ratio of time spent in the library to time spent in the pitch karaoke bar finally dropped below 1. We had an intern preparedness course, which I'll go ahead and take the liberty of speaking on behalf of everyone, was a fantastic educational experience. Absolutely, we continued and refined and getting better. And then in March, we had match day, where where the nervous energy and tension in the air was so thick it could probably have even cut off Dr. McBee Orslow's impressive locks of hair. And of course it culminated with senior week, where we played paintball and ping pong, got roasted by Dr. Neil Shetty, some of us more thoroughly than others. You see Dr. Tapeworm over there. We camped and canoed, where the only people that didn't wear life jackets were the ones falling in the lake. I see you again, Buckage. And we crawled our way down Main Street. So that brings us to now. So med school. We gave you our time, our money. I gave you about half of my 20s, which from what I hear from my non-medical friends is a pretty fun decade. Not entirely sure, it's all hearsay. But I think we can all agree, having graduated from UEComp in this institution, we're all in a great position to go out, keep learning, be great doctors, maybe even do a few of those things we mentioned in our med school admissions essays 4 years ago, even if they aren't legally binding. So a big thank you to all our faculty and mentors we had over the last 4 years for the guidance, the advice, and a big thank you to all of our family members too. In the words of Oklahoma's City Thunder forward Kevin Durant, they're the real MVPs. First speech ever to quote Churchill and Kevin Durant. I'll go on that one. So thank you again for choosing me to speak today. I couldn't speak today. I couldn't have been more honored. And thank you, classmates. So good luck to all of you, whether you still go by the name your parents gave you, or whether you go by a canine-related nickname like Dr. Great Dane Moyer. I couldn't have chosen a better group to spend the last